Thank you for staying here with us at 5 o'clock. We are live at the Tidal Basin tonight because our cherry trees have reached peak bloom.
Yeah, we've been waiting for it. And just before 8:30 this morning, Mike Litterst with the National Park Service spoke to the peak bloom gods, and they said, yes, now is the time.
Got the crystal ball out and conjured up the latest counts. And yeah, we were so close yesterday. We were down here with Caitlin last night. It was chilly. The sun never came out. And it just didn't move us over that magic 70% of the trees being in bloom that we need. A little warmth this morning. Didn't really get that cold overnight. And first thing we were able to say officially, we're in peak bloom.
Now, originally, the National Park Service was predicting peak bloom would happen, next week at some point?
Our original window was somewhere between March 29th and April 1st.
Yeah.
We were earlier than anyone else that sort of jumps in the prognostication game. We just had some whiplash temperatures, and that 80 degrees last weekend just accelerated us probably through those 3 days that we wound up being early.
This is the fastest they've bloomed in years.
It's the fastest bloom cycle, so which if you define from the start of phase one, which is green bud, until you reach peak bloom, only took 15 days to go through those six progressions. That's tied for the fastest in the last 22 years at least. Need to go back a little bit further and look at some data before that.
It's pretty amazing.
It was fascinating what you mentioned at 4 o'clock, that there are folks with the National Park Service going out how often each day to check each tree to find out what stage it's at.
Once we get to this, when we're this close, or when we know we're about to bump up from one stage to the next, twice a day, making a lap around the tidal basin and actually counting trees to get a fairly accurate count of what percent are we at what stage.
There's a lot riding on this, right? There's a lot in terms of people coming out, tourism, big opportunities for hotels, for restaurants. I mean, everybody is really counting on this season for a rebirth of the city in the spring.
It's changed so much over the years. In fact, next year is the 100th anniversary of the Cherry Blossom Festival. But the first year I volunteered for the festival in 1984, Cherry Blossom Festival is one day. You hoped that the parade wound up being on the day that the trees were in bloom. And you're right, it's become this economic driver for the city. It's now 4 weekends, big events going on every weekend. And from the moment we make that peak bloom prediction, we know that there are airline reservations being made and hotels being booked. So we're 3 days early. But if you plan to come down on the 29th, which is when we said, there's still going to be full view blossoms for the next probably 7 days or so.
And with that said, we're going to continue to see these crowds beyond peak bloom, probably for a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. The events all go on from now through the 11th, which is the parade. Probably won't be many blossoms on the trees by the time we get to the 11th, but events going on. Certainly for the next week or so, I think we'll expect to see blossoms. Warm temperatures coming in the middle of next week, 70s, 80s even. That could probably hasten the leaves replacing the blossoms.
We've talked about the wind. Obviously, we're moving hair. Everything's kind of moving around a little bit out here. And so for people who are a little bit concerned about that, they don't need to worry.
No, this early in peak bloom, the petals are fresh, they're strong, they're holding on well. Little breeze here and there, a little rain tomorrow, I think that's not going to be a problem. What you're worried about is when you get into day 7 or 8, trees are starting to wilt, the petals are starting to give a little bit. That's when you don't want a strong wind or a heavy rain.
All right, we have like 10 seconds left, Mike. So any quick advice or tips for anyone watching right now who's thinking about coming down?
If you're coming down, especially this weekend, don't try and drive. Make maximum use of public transportation, bike, walk, what have you.
It's the best advice, really, truly. No, Mike Litterst with National Park Service. I know you don't do crowd estimations, but you did say your official position is that there are many more people here today than were yesterday.
Somewhere between a dozen and a million. We'll leave it at that.
Nice
Pick
range.
your number. Always great to see you, Mike. Thanks so much.
Thanks. So, Mike.